Hi, everyone. Welcome to Me, You, and Who. March is Women's History Month, and to celebrate that, we are talking to some remarkable women who have made big differences in the infertility world. On today's episode, we get to hear from Dr. Dorette Noorhasan. Dr. Noorhasan is a board certified reproductive endocrinologist and infertility specialist and is the medical director and co founder of CCRM Dallas Fort Worth. She has published in numerous journals, including Fertility and Sterility, Human Reproduction, Women's Health Issues, Journal of Pediatrics, and Obstetrics and Gynecology International. But her work turned personal, and she shared her own infertility struggle in her book, Miracle Baby, A Fertility Doctor's Fight for Motherhood. Dr. Noorhasan truly understands what it is like to walk in her patient's shoes. She has personally done 5 cycles of in vitro fertilization to ultimately create an embryo that was eventually transferred to a surrogate. And because of her surrogate's kindness, Dr. Noorhasan has been able to experience parenthood, something that she thought was never going to be attainable. It was a joy speaking to Dr. Noorhasan about some of the remarkable women in her life and how they shaped her, as well as talking about how she navigated her personal journey in infertility as a medical professional and intended mother. So please enjoy listening to Dr. Noorhasan. Me, you, and who? Who knew it would take more than 2 people to have a baby? In a world where infertility is no longer a taboo topic, this podcast will take you through all the different aspects of surrogacy and egg donation through the lens of many who walk this journey in different ways. My name is Whitney Hall, and I am a 2-time surrogate, now turned surrogacy coordinator for Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions, the very agency I used when I chose to carry for 2 amazing families. With this podcast, it is our goal to help guide and support you as you learn about what it takes to grow a family in an alternative way, as well as hear inspiring and beautiful stories of how this path has changed lives forever. We can't wait for you to hear about just one more way happy families are created every day. Thank you again for just giving your time to be a part of this, Dr. Noorhasan. It is so good to meet you in face to face. I know we have had the amazing honor to get to work with you. And so this is just so fun. I so appreciate the opportunity.
Whitney, thank you so much for having me today. I'm super excited to chat with everyone about surrogacy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, so before we even get to the fun of surrogacy, your path to medicine and then ultimately as a reproductive endocrinologist was very personal, and you gave just a beautiful in-depth journey to that in your amazing book, Miracle Baby. And I know throughout the book, one of the things that I think that really spoke to me was you talked about just all of the remarkable women that were in your life throughout, just your journey starting at a young age. Can you tell, I know some of the women because I have had the pleasure of reading some of your book, but can you tell some of our listeners just about some of those amazing women that influenced your life?
Absolutely. So, as women, I believe we're all in a sisterhood, and some of the most amazing women in my life. First of all, you read my book, so my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was super
Yes.
influential in my life. So she taught me a lot about being an independent woman and pursuing my dreams. So she's absolutely my role model. And then a lot of what I experienced as a child and wanting to do OBGYN and then ultimately infertility was watching my mother go through her reproductive years. So watching my mother go through several pregnancies, pregnancy losses, her hysterectomy. So watching her go through those types of things really led me to want to do OBGYN. And then it was during my OBGYN residency that I was exposed to the field of reproductive endocrinology and infertility. And that's where I found my passion, and I absolutely enjoy doing what I do every day. Not too many of us get to do something we enjoy every day, which is, I feel lucky that I found that one thing that I'm super passionate about. So it makes it easy to come to work every day. And my favorite part is just watching the patients when they get pregnant and seeing how
Yes.
happy they are at their obstetrical visits and their sonograms. And then the best part is when they bring a baby to show me 9 months later and just seeing how incredibly happy they
Oh
are.
gosh, yes.
That's the best part.
Oh yes, you get to see that little snuggle bug. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. It's so you mentioned you had kind of a front row seat to watching and just being exposed to kind of the world of obviously just infertility and just pregnancy struggles in general, watching your mom and everything. I one of the parts in your book that really spoke to me was you were talking about your godmother in Antigua, and you kind of just like briefly mentioned her fertility struggle, and you were kind of you filled a little bit of that void, with her, and everything. And I know you had said your mother had kind of become that confidant of sorts as she was just going through that. Did you and your mother, I mean, even as a young child, did you recognize what was happening, or did your mother ever talk to you about that, or was it pretty like still kind of a taboo topic?
It was still pretty a taboo topic. So
Yeah.
my godmother really was in love with me and did all these
Yeah.
things for me, just as if I was her own daughter. And it's only until later on I realized that she was struggling to have her own child,
Mm-hmm.
and the connection she had with me filled that void for her. But super excited, she eventually got her own child and her own daughter,
She
actually.
did her own
Um,
miracle baby.
yeah, exactly. So she was so incredibly happy with her baby. I mean, I saw how excited she was and how much good care she took of me as well as her own child.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure, I mean, and again, you kind of speak to that sisterhood earlier about how your mother was able to kind of be there for her in that way with, her own struggles and things like that. Eventually, after you've learned so much, you've seen all these things, you went to med school and then obstetrics and everything, and then all of a sudden a big moment happened in your life, and now the tables turned and you became a patient. What was
Yes.
that like? How did we navigate all of that? Because you were so I mean, I felt in the book like you were so in control of just everything that you were doing. Like you had a plan, you stuck to that plan, and then all of a sudden everything just went just sideways.
Yep, exactly. So I became a fertility doctor because I really enjoyed doing infertility. I never thought
Yeah.
that I would be using my own tools of the trade to help myself. So
Yeah.
I had already finished medical school, residency, fellowship, and already in private practice
Mm-hmm.
when I met my husband, and much older in life. And we struggled with infertility. We had me being older and older eggs in terms of quantity and quality. Same thing with
Sure.
him. And then because of a medical condition, I couldn't carry my own pregnancy. So really, we had egg, sperm, and uterus. We had all of it that was working.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so I eventually had to do fertility treatments and surrogacy.
Yeah. What was that like as you were kind of navigating? These were once tools that you were so excited about to help others, and now all of a sudden you're having to sit with the realization of, oh, now I have to use these things.
I take it as it is, and I'm just matter of fact. I'm like, okay, I guess this is what I have to do. And
Yeah.
you, you think you know a lot of it as a fertility doctor, but it's really
Sure.
until you go through it as a patient and really see the other side of it, is
Hmm.
really when you understand what it's like to be a patient and their views on the whole process. So it's a completely different mindset. And even with surrogacy, I know the surrogacy aspect as a physician, but not until I was an intended mother did I really have a good grasp of, oh, what other steps I need to do outside of the medical aspect, like the legal
Yeah.
aspect and the psychological screening. And there's so much more involved than
Hmm.
just the medical aspect. So I learned a lot of it as a patient.
Yeah. So what was that like? Okay, we realize, slowly that, you kind of, you have the trifecta, if you will, of, just needing all of the things. And now we're going into the world of surrogacy. How did you navigate it? Like you said, you kind of knew what it was medically, you knew it in your brain, but then now we're going into a whole new world. How did you navigate that? What kept you going forward?
Really, my faith.
Yeah.
So you have to believe in something stronger and bigger than yourself, and that ultimately it's gonna work out somehow.
Mm.
So really, my faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any granny mottos that you leaned on during that time?
Oh, there's so many mottos that she's given to me. I
She
don't know
had
if I
some
had.
amazing one-liners.
Yeah, I think she did. I don't know if I had a specific one during those down moments. I don't know if I
Sure.
had a specific one, but she really gave me a lot of good mottos to live by.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, she sounds like an incredible woman. I okay, so we're moving forward and your process to, I mean, I know you mentioned psychological and medical screening and kind of that whole process of what happens when you have a surrogate, but your process to even get to step 1 of finding a surrogate was a long process. How did you navigate that and what was it like kind of switching hats, if you will, of looking at it from a medical perspective and then looking at it from an intended mom's perspective?
It wasn't easy finding a surrogate.
Yeah,
It's not easy, and a lot of it was just trial and error and just kind of figuring my way around things. Now, in hindsight, I can just say what really worked is just finding someone that I'm comfortable with. So, just as
mm,
me being the intended mother in this scenario, finding a gestational carrier or surrogate, just someone who I feel like I can work with, someone whose views are aligned with mine in terms of pregnancy, in terms of the way she saw things. That was the most important aspect. I'm not that type of person that, I need to call her and tell her what she should eat or shouldn't eat or those types
sure.
of things. I just wanted to pick someone that I trust and that she would treat this pregnancy as if it was hers. And I found that person.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, that's huge. That trust factor is huge. I mean, ultimately, you mentioned in the book, I mean, you saw so many profiles. I think it was 12, you said,
Yeah,
until you
it
found.
was probably about a dozen profiles. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, until you found Kayla. What helped you? I mean, did you kind of start the process of, okay, I'm looking at this very medically. What are the factors that I can kind of, for lack of a better word, control in an uncontrollable situation, right? How did you get from there to what you just said, where ultimately it was just about comfort, and what was comfort for you?
You know, there was a lot of it. So I did look at it from a medical aspect because I needed to be comfortable with the medical aspect first.
Yeah, yeah.
And then once the comfort with the medical aspect was there, then it was just about finding the right match in terms of personality.
Mm.
And I think you find the right person. It's like trying to date someone. You have like a long
Yes.
laundry list of things, and really the person you end up with may not fit everything in that long laundry list, but yet that person turns out to be the perfect person. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like that.
I love that. I mean, that's so great. I've always described, a match meeting whenever for those who don't know, when you're meeting your surrogate after you guys have decided to, possibly move forward and everything, and you have that first meeting to get to know each other. I've always described it as like a blind date. You're getting prepped and everything, and and of course it's like on Zoom, or back in the day it was Skype, and everything. But yeah, you're so exactly right. It's like dating and then a blind date and then you move forward.
Exactly.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. So, what do you feel like? I mean, you knew so much about the process just in the seat that you sit in. What were maybe some of the surprises or that you kind of went through with your own journey?
Um, just a lot of it's just getting the paperwork done, the legal, the psych
Sure.
things. I think once we found the right person and the pregnancy test was positive, that all of that went really well. She
Hmm.
had a lot of bleeding in pregnancy, which I was not ready for, but it just
Mm.
everything stabilized, and she kept going. The pregnancy kept going, um, and it worked out really well. And we had been through so many levels of disappointment that
Mm-hmm.
I never truly allowed myself to get super happy until the day he was
Mm.
born.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Well, as you, as a fertility patient, you go through these roller coasters of thinking a cycle is going to work, and
Yes.
sometimes it doesn't work, and then you're back to square one. And so, uh, with that process, you learn to do what I call um, you're hopeful, but you're still very cautious.
Yeah.
So I call it cautiously optimistic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so you're grateful for every step and every milestone in the process, because you're one step closer to birth, but still realistic enough to know, hey, anything could go wrong at any point in time.
Mm.
And so I allowed myself to be happy, but not to the point of where I would be so happy that I could be disappointed until I finally held him.
Mm. Mm. I know that resonates so much with so many people. Did you ever, like, looking back on it, did
Mhm.
you ever wish that you could have changed that? Or do you feel like that was how you had to get through it after so much
I,
disappointment?
I think that's how I had to get through it.
Yeah, yeah. How, prior to even getting to there, how
Mhm.
did you handle those high highs and low lows?
You just take him one step at a time. You
Mm,
grieve and you scrape yourself off the ground and figure out how to get back on and do the next step.
yeah.
It's just the grieving process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I mean, the book starts with delivery day, which I love. And one of the things that you mentioned was like it was quiet in the car and you're sitting there trying to figure out, okay, am I doctor today or am I mom today? And and just kind of navigating, again, I feel like you knew so much, just from a medical perspective, but then you're living and breathing it as an intended mom. What was delivery day like? How was that?
Oh, it was so awesome. It happened so quickly. I mean, she went in, the induction went well, and pretty much by noon, she was pushing and baby was out. And it was just a very happy moment. Everything happened so quickly, so easily.
Yeah.
It was a very smooth process.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes when it's so easy after having so much where it hasn't been easy, it's almost, I don't even realize that just happened.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, absolutely, absolutely. So, what would you say, maybe just, putting on your two hats, what kind of advice would you want to give to, just prospective intended parents and, even gestational carriers as, they're potentially looking at this as a way to build their family?
I would say just pick someone you like, pick someone that you feel connected with. And
Mm,
that's really all that matters, is just finding someone that you're connected with.
yeah. What was that connection like for you? How did you build that?
I think just because we saw pregnancy along the same light, and so we had the same views on pregnancy, and I felt like, she was a great person. Her intentions were so great. I think she felt the same way about me. And I think there was just this mutual trust um, that was very helpful. And I think that that's really the biggest thing, is just having this mutual trust and respect. And
Hmm.
the relationship was just wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. How's that relationship been post delivery?
Oh, it's great. She gets pictures all the time at his birthday, Mother's Day,
Mm,
Christmas cards. We exchange Christmas cards every
of
year, so
course.
I get to watch her kids grow up too, because the Christmas cards, they're getting older and older too. And so her kids, and so it's a great relationship.
I love that. I love that. And you're so right. I mean, you just like you just said, like you get to watch her kids grow up. Like you invested into that little family as well, which is just so fun.
Yes, it's so much fun. And I love to hear, she sends these long notes at Christmas time as to what they did all
Mm.
year, and I love to read the stories of what adventures they had that year. So it's been a great connection.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, from a physician's perspective, you said it earlier, you know so much, but there's that emotional aspect that you're probably not going to really be able to get in touch with until the tables have turned. How has that been a benefit to you and your practice at CCRM Dallas?
Oh, it's great. I feel like I can truly relate to the patient and really understand what they're going through. So it's been a good thing for me to see their point of view and their perspective on things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Definitely. What do you feel like maybe sets your clinic apart?
Several things. A lot of what we talked about today. So, just my story, and me being in the patient's shoes and understanding what they're going through, as
Yeah.
well as our lab is known for its very high IVF pregnancy success rates. So, we get a lot of patients because of our lab having such great pregnancy success rates. And then, probably the third biggest aspect is because we're part of a large network, we are seen essentially as tier one with a lot of major insurance carriers. So we're
Mm,
a center for excellence with United Healthcare, an institute of excellence with Aetna. And so it costs patients less to see us because we're essentially seen as a tier one facility. And a lot of that has to do with our very high pregnancy success rates, low complication rates, and pretty much getting patients through the process to why they're here. They want to have a healthy baby, and we get to that point the quickest and the easiest with IVF. And so we see a lot of patients for those reasons.
yeah, yeah. And you have amazing nurses, Jamie and Alyssa, shout out.
Good, excellent.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. No, that's fantastic. It's interesting, definitely, you know, not only are you people are going through this process and they're kind of going through that journey of figuring of just the realization that this is the process that they have to go to, and then you hit them with the financial aspect of it, which is, yeah,
It's
I
experience.
mean, it's expensive. Yeah, how do you have those types of conversations with intended parents?
Well, with we have a business department that helps them with that,
Yeah.
so that it's really good to be part of a large network that helps them navigate those things. We see a lot more insurance coverage now here in Texas. I
Mm-hmm.
think things have certainly changed in the last 10 to 15 years in terms of insurance coverage. So more and more patients now are getting coverage for IVF treatments, which is really helpful.
It's huge. Yeah, I've definitely seen an uptick in that, which has just been amazing. So love that. Yay, let's keep up the good work there. Awesome. So going back to your book, if there was one key takeaway that you wanted everyone to know about, what would that be?
Oh, there's so many key takeaways.
There's a lot. There's some very good nuggets in here.
There's so many. So because you read the book, there's two parallel stories. There's my life story and what I've been through as an immigrant child to become a physician today, and then there's the story of having my child and what I've been through as a doctor, as a patient, and IVF and surrogacy. So one of the biggest things, just looking at those two parallel stories, is just keep trying, just never give up. The path to whatever your goal is, whatever you see as the success is, whether it's having a baby, becoming a doctor, whatever it is, that path is not a straight trajectory. It's a up and
Mm-mm.
you fall down a little bit, you go back up and fall again, and it's so what I'm trying to say is never give up. There'll be many disappointments along the way, but just with persistence and perseverance, you'll get to whatever that goal is that you set.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Going back to your other story about, just what it was to be an immigrant child, a woman in the medical field, what is maybe a key takeaway to some of those other just women, young ladies, little girls, as they're just looking into the world? What advice would you give them there?
Oh, you can, a little girl, you can be anything you want to grow up to be. And
Yes.
as long as you put the work in, set your mind to it, you really can do anything you want to do. And I see that every single day. And it's great to have role models, other women that can help you. That same sisterhood thing that I talked about earlier on. And even in my practice, you said shout out to Jamie and Eliza. One of the
Yeah.
things that I that is important in my practice with my staff is that we work so well together as a cohesive unit, and it's mostly women. I think I have one male in the entire office. It's so great, and it's really important for us to be supportive of each other and work as a team. So for any little girl growing up, she can be whatever she wants to be. She just has to keep working for it and seek out help, seek out opportunities. But anything is possible.
Yes. Oh, you're so right. And I want to just shout that from a mountaintop. So, my final question for you, and it's a fun one. For anyone who knows me, I have a very codependent relationship with coffee. Um, so I always love to ask, what filled your cup this morning, either literally or figuratively? What filled your cup this morning?
Oh, there's so many things. I'm truly a lucky person, but also a lot of it is perspective and the way you look
Mm.
at things and seeing the cup half full. So always in the morning, I get to make breakfast for my son, and it's simple, it's easy. It takes a few extra minutes, but
Yeah.
it's wonderful to have a child to make breakfast for. Um,
It's those little things, isn't it?
yeah, I come to work and
Yeah.
I have a ton of patients. I did this morning, I did 3 egg retrievals, all went very well. Patients were so happy
Mm.
to get to this point. So I have amazing family, amazing patients, wonderful staff. Um, Pretty lucky.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, we are so grateful to get to be, one of the parts of, your clinic and helping those just navigate the world of surrogacy in our own way. And we are so grateful to you and all that you do to help just everybody out there in the infertility world. And I am so grateful for the time that you are giving to us here, especially amongst your busy day, egg retrievals, and now you've got to go see patients and everything. So, again, thank you so much. And for those, I'm going to put it in the show notes, but it's Miracle Baby, a fertility doctor's fight for motherhood. And then you have a second book as well, which I think you have in the background. Will you
Yeah,
tell?
I have
Yeah.
them on my bookshelf. So one of the things that I noticed is that as physicians, we tend to just talk the medical talk, and sometimes
Sure.
we fail to break it down, simple or simplify it. And so, what I wanted to do was to write a book that just, without giving true medical advice, just kind of educate patients about what
Mm-hmm.
is fertility, because sometimes you don't even know what questions to ask your doctor.
Yeah.
It can be very difficult, and so the book that I wrote called The Fertility Manual, it's right here.
Yeah.
It's it's like basic fertility 101. What is infertility? How do I know even if I have it?
Mm-hmm.
And I go to the doctor, and what are testing, and why do they order all this tests? I mean, it seems like exhaustive, but there's real reason why we do all these testing. And then they describe various treatment options, and how do I know which one is right for me? And there is a chapter in the book about third party reproduction. So,
Shout out. Woo woo.
exactly, donor egg, donor sperm, and surrogacy. And then the last aspect is just the psychological component, because there's truly a psychological component.
Mm-hmm.
Women are, they're very anxious, they can get depressed with all the negative cycles and things not working out, and there's truly this, it can become a very vicious cycle where the more stressed out you get, the less likely you are to get pregnant, and then the more stressed out you get, and so finding other women who are struggling with infertility is so important, and establishing relationships and groups that you can work with, and hearing other people's stories, it's so beneficial. The
Mm.
book ends with that, where it's so important, whether it's just social media, Facebook groups, or people but just talking about infertility. And going back to what you said in the beginning of this session, is things are less taboo now because people are
Yeah.
talking about it. No one talked about it 40 years ago with
Yeah.
my mother, but now people are talking about it. And so, it's through podcasts like this is where patients
Mm.
learn that, hey, I'm not just the only person struggling with this. Even a doctor who practices this type of medicine has the same problem. And so
Yeah.
it's important for us to share these stories.
Oh, I could not agree more. I could not agree more. Well, I will not take up any more of your time. I am so grateful for everything that you have done, are doing, literally actively about to go do. Again, just thank you so much for this, and for breaking things down in layman's terms with your other book, and just being so vulnerable with your story. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. You have just finished listening to an episode of Me, You, and Who. To find out more about egg donor and surrogate solutions, go to www.createahappyfamily.com.